Hey Most Amazing Top 10 family, I'm your host Jade Reyna and welcome back to Most Amazing Top 10. If you do any type of performance, then you know how horrible it can feel when you're stuck on stage bombing. You're up there sucking, everyone hates you, and you can't get off because you're contractually obligated to do a certain amount of time. All you can do is stay up there and endure. It is pretty brutal. I know I have bombed on stage enough times. And the same thing happens every single time I do it. I start talking super fast and sweating like I'm in an Austrian sauna. But sometimes things can go even worse than humiliation. What could that be? Well, to find out, you're gonna have to watch today's list of top 10 curse performances gone wrong. As always, I would love it if you guys could like, comment, subscribe, and hit the little notification bell. Also, stick around for the whole list because I'm going to be doing some more pet shoutouts, which you guys love so much. If you want me to shout out your pet, you can hit me up on Instagram. Anyone at home who's looking for some more Most Amazing Top 10 content, check us out on Instagram and Facebook. We are starting to do Facebook exclusive content, so you guys aren't going to want to miss that. Anyone at home who needs some merch, check out the link in the description below. Use the offer code MA10 to get $5 off, which means you can grab a shirt for 10 bucks. That's an amazing deal, guys. And without taking any longer, let's get into this list. At number 10, we have Jean-Baptiste Poquelin. Alright, we are going to kick off this list by flying back in time to the year 1673, before people had deodorant and bath water was kept around longer than milk. It was France, and the famous theater actor Jean-Baptiste Poquelin, also known as his stage name Molière, this guy was super famous and headed out on the stage to crush another performance. He was in the play La Madame Imaginaire and decked out in one of the finest green suits you have ever seen. But remember, it was back in the 17th century, before people could wash their hands regularly after they took a poop, and a hangnail would turn to your arm getting cut off. Well, Jean Poquelin had a bit of a cold that day, or so he thought it was just a cold. He was actually suffering from tuberculosis. Just saying that word gives me Red Dead flashbacks and brutally hurts my heart. Molière felt a tickle in his throat mid-performance. That tickle grew into a cough, which led to the last coughing fit this guy would ever have. He died backstage, and now it's said performing in the color green is cursed. I mean, you really shouldn't blame the color for this one. The guy had a lung disease, but you can't control people's superstition. At number 9, we have Tommy Cooper. Tommy Cooper was an extremely talented comedic magician who was destroying it all over the UK and Europe throughout the early 80s. He was featured on television several times and performed in a number of televised sketches. He was performing on live TV when this happened. You can hear the audience and they are loving it because they think it's all part of his act. He was killing it while having a full-blown heart attack. No one really knew what was going on, so eventually it just cut to commercial, but by the time they got to Tommy, he was already dead. As a comedian, that is probably the second best way to go out. The first being at home with your family and everyone who loves you, but the second being on stage slaying it with your last joke. At number 8, we have Steve Irwin. I don't know if you can call what Steve Irwin did a performance, but I wanted to include him on this list because of all the lives he touched. I know he was a massive part of my childhood. He gave me the initial interest and love for animals. While shooting a documentary about marine life and ocean conservation, Steve Irwin was stung through the heart by a stingray. The venom of the stinger entered his heart and he was killed almost instantly. His death was massive. Everyone talked about it for years, and he still lives on in the memes, not as a joke, but because people loved and idolized him so much. The dude will live forever as a legend. His family continues to carry on his legacy, with both his children working in animal conservation and appearing on a variety of late night shows to keep the spark of Steve Irwin alive. RIP to a legend. For number 7, let's shoot to the year 1873 when a freak accident made it one actress's last performance. Matilda Pascal was a famous Romanian actress. She was known for her beauty and booming voice. She was married to a director who casted her in a play, Don Juan de Marana. She was playing a beautiful angel and she was supposed to be hoisted up on ropes so she could fly over the audience, but it didn't go as planned. Instead of soaring like a majestic angel, she went crashing straight into a wall and died from complications shortly after. Now, what could have caused this horrible accident? Well, it was one of the stagehands who screwed up the pulley system. It's so hard to find good help. At number 6, we have LILLIAN. It only makes sense that we have some circus performers on here. Before Cirque du Soleil, a circus act could get shot out of a cannon, try to tame a tiger, and get a cannibal shot into their stomach all in one night. LILLIAN would put her body at risk in other ways. She was part of the high-flying Ringing Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. She performed as a strong woman, but what really got people going was her acrobatic act. She took the act all over Europe, every time without a hitch. Her and her partner were so confident with their act that they would often perform without a net. This would get the people going. The show is so much more exciting when death is on the line. On Friday the 13th of February 1931, Lillian would climb the ladder for the last time. She was performing her regular acrobatic act with her partner when out of nowhere the cord supporting her snapped and sent her plummeting to her death. She was rushed to the hospital and died 2 days later. Remember, if it's Friday the 13th, don't do any risky things if you can help it. Unless you're Jason Voorhees, then it's like your birthday party or something. At number 5 we have MITSUHARU Musawa, aka Tiger Mask. Depending on how big of a wrestling fan you are, you may or may not know this legend. He wasn't popular in the Western scene, but he is one of the greatest Japanese wrestlers who has ever lived. He was amazing both in ability and fame. A lot of people compare him to wrestling legends like Ric Flair or The Rock. Anyone who knew anything about Japanese wrestling knew who this man was. He blew up in the 90s and became the face of the Japanese circuit. But in 2009, a seemingly standard stunt would be the last time anyone saw this champion take to the mat. He was competing in a tag team match and was on the receiving end of a suplex. A technical move, but nothing too dangerous, and for whatever reason MITSUHARU didn't get up. The crowd started chanting his name thinking this was all part of the performance, but when paramedics rushed in, it was very clear that something had gone terribly wrong. Reports said that MITSUHARU was purple before he left the ring. The autopsy showed that he died from heart failure. It's possible that the impact dislodged something in his arteries, sending it flying into his heart, but it's really unknown. At number 4 we have Lee Morgan. Lee Morgan was a killer jazz musician throughout the 50s, 60s, and 70s. He was a master of many wind instruments, but he was best known for his abilities with the trumpet. He was well respected in the jazz community. Most people aren't lucky enough to make a career in music last that long. He was performing at a jazz club in New York in 1972 when his wife, Helen Morgan, walked up to the stage and shot him in cold blood. They had an argument between sets, and apparently that was enough to set her off. It wasn't really the gunshot that killed him. Lee was alive for a while afterwards. He was waiting for the ambulance to arrive to save his life, but it was a snowy day in New York, and by the time the paramedics arrived, he had already died from blood loss. At number 3 we have Vic Morrow. When you have to do your own stunts, you're really putting your life at risk. Vic Morrow was about to shoot a car chase scene back in 1982. It was going to be a pretty epic shot. There was a helicopter chasing down a car with him and his 2 co-stars, Mi Kan-din Lee, who was only 7 years old, and Ri Shen-yi Chan, who was only 6 years old. Everyone was prepped, cameras were ready, and the chopper was floating right above them. In the moments everyone was waiting for the director to yell action, something malfunctioned. One of the explosive special effects went off without warning, damaging the helicopter and causing it to crash down into the car, killing the 3 of them instantly. At number 2 we have John ERIK HEXUM. I don't know a lot about guns, but I do know that blank rounds are still powerful enough to injure people. I saw Tom Cruise say it in an interview once, that's the only reason I know. Well, there was not a proper gun safety course given to John HEXUM when he was on the TV set for the show The Cover-Up. He was about to shoot a scene which required him to fire a gun fully loaded with blanks, but like most things in the entertainment industry, everything got delayed. HEXUM was now sitting around on set holding a handgun that was fully loaded. Mind you, it was all blanks, but as I said before, blanks at the right distance are still dangerous. HEXUM decided that he would play the classic game Russian roulette on himself. He took every one of the bullets out of the chamber except for one, did the classic spin, then pressed the gun against his temple and pulled the trigger. After a few shots, the gun fired. Even though it was just a blank round, it sent chunks of his skull flying into his brain, and that left him dead on the set. Moral of the story is, don't play with guns, they are not toys. And for the number 1 spot we have Owen Hart. Wrestling is rehearsed, but that doesn't mean that professional wrestlers aren't putting their bodies on the line every time they get out there. Injuries in wrestling are as common as street fights after a UFC match. Owen Hart had a superhero alter ego named the Blue Blazer. He was a high-flying eccentric character, and for one match, the WWE thought they would show the world how much of a superhero the Blue Blazer was. The plan was to have him descend from the rafters like he was flying, but absolutely nothing went as planned. The pulley system that was supposed to lower Hart down malfunctioned, and he fell 76 feet, bounced off the ropes, and slammed into the ring. The crowd thought this all might have been part of the performance, but paramedics quickly rushed in. Before the night was over, one of the commentators informed the crowd that Owen Hart had died. From the fall, he had serious internal bleeding, and doctors were unable to save him. Alright everyone, that is our list, and as promised, I'm going to be doing some more pet shoutouts for all the fans out there who keep sending in their pets. I love it. If you guys don't know, if you want me to shout out your pet, you can hit me up on Instagram. I pick new pets every day, so if I don't pick you one day, you can message back again. It's totally fine. If it takes me a little while to get back to you, I'm so sorry because I got so many of these to do. And without taking any longer, let's shout out some pets. First, we have Sheldon's cat Mischief. This cat looks like it was made to be worshipped by the Egyptians. Kimberly wanted a shout out for Catsby. This dude is ready. Look at that laser focus. Eden sent in a picture of Jackson. This guy just looks like he's so happy to see everyone. Omar sent in a picture of Maximilian. This guy is always having a good time. Someone invite him to the next party. And we sent in a picture of their mouse Reva. I'm getting some major Stuart Little vibes from this dude. Give him a little vest or something. And finally, Ciara sent in a picture of Odysseus. This guy's chilling so hard, and what an epic name for a dog. Very well picked. Alright everyone, that is our list. Thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, I would love it if you could like, comment, subscribe, and hit the little notification bell. Until next time, I've been Che Dorena, and hopefully I don't die on stage. That would suck.